yeah, I was like at 7, I was like, I want to be on Broadway. And they were like, are you sure you don't want to be like a lawyer? And I was like, no, I want to be on Broadway. So I feel like, that line from Euphoria, from a very young age, Maddie knew who she was, like
Yeah,
I,
yes. Welcome bienvenue. Welcome to Legroom, a show where we are going to build a prom today with Gabi Frederique Campo. Welcome to the show.
Hi,
How are you?
hello. I am good. I'm good. I am my family's in Los Angeles right now and they're doing okay, so that means I'm doing
Yes.
okay.
Good. I'm really glad to hear our thoughts and love and energy is with them. And we'll be sure to be doing what we can to support. Um,
Awesome.
Wonderful. So, Gabby, you and I was feeling very Glinda. Our paths did cross in school. We both
Mhm.
went to Pace, and I was studying directing. You studied musical theater.
Mhm.
I was class of 16. When did you graduate?
18.
18. How was your experience at Pace?
I loved Pace. I was so happy to move to New York. I mean, I've wanted to do that ever since I was young, and to be able to go to school for musical theater in New York City was, kind of the best thing that could have ever happened to me at the time.
Yeah.
So it was really, really cool just to be taught by teachers who were working and on the pulse, and it was really, really amazing. And I still have so many teachers to this day who come see me in shows, and it's just an amazing community that I was able to build so early on in my New York
Yeah.
career, which is kind of like the best thing ever.
Totally. And I feel like you're a part of a cohort of graduates from around that time that have really gone on to have really wonderful careers and are all still very close. I know one of your first times on is Sally in Cabaret. You had a whole group of Pace alum that came and saw, and it was really, really wonderful to see. When did you start acting or getting into musical theater? Is there a element of musical theater that you are like drawn most to as a kid?
Yeah. So, like I said, I grew up in Los Angeles
Hmm.
and both my parents were in the industry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, in the way that like they both really wanted to be actors in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And so my dad was a dancer, and he was doing music videos and like background work, and my mom was doing one woman shows. She was an opera singer. And so they always had that love for theater, and they toured together, and they finally said, okay, I think we're gonna settle down and have kids. And they were always playing show tunes in the car. And so then their friends were like, you're gonna brainwash this kid. And I don't know if they did or if it was just something I came into the world with that, I picked my parents right in the way that like I just loved musical theater from like the moment that I could breathe or like remember or it was always kind of in my DNA. And I remember at 7 years old, like I would always play like West Side Story and run around the house. And um yeah, I was like at 7, I was like, I want to be on Broadway. And they were like, are you sure you don't want to be like a lawyer? And I was like, no, I want to be on Broadway. So I feel like, that line from Euphoria, from a very young age, Maddie knew who she was. Like
Yeah,
I
yes.
I really like kind of, you know, it was always just in me. And so I went to a
Oh, wow.
musical theater high school, no, performing arts high school where I did musical theater.
Wow.
Yeah, which was amazing. And I like that. I have very fond memories of high school to this day. Um, because there was just so many like-minded young people that I could connect with. And then by the time I was 18, I was like, get me to New York,
That's
you know?
amazing. Do you have any roles that you did in high school that you can share?
Yeah. We did Sweeney Todd at one point.
Appropriate.
I played very appropriate, and even more appropriate, I played the beggar woman.
Oh, that must have been so good.
It was something, I think. Um, what else did I play? I played what? Oh, I did like so many shows, and now I'm coming up blank. In high school, what did I play? Oh, I played Marta in Company. Again,
Uh,
very appropriate.
these high schools, do you ever watch the YouTube videos of like crazy high school performances of like Shrek and stuff? It's you go down rabbit holes.
That sounds like something I would love to do, so maybe I'll do that
Yeah,
later today.
I'll send you some. So
Yeah.
Company, that's amazing.
Yeah, Martin Company, and then it's so many, but the really the kicker one is that I played Sally in Cabaret.
Oh my God.
Yeah, in high
That's
school.
that's cool. I want to come back to Cabaret. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of go into your resume on Broadway, which I can only describe as like let's fucking go vibes. Like this list just keeps going and it's quite impressive. So the prom, you were a swing and you understudied Emma, Alyssa, Kaylee, Shelby, Olivia.
Hmm.
West Side Story, Ivo Van Hove's West Side Story, you were Consuelo and you understudied Anita. You did the Pirates of Penzance benefit concert. It,
Yeah, it was a
it,
one night thing.
it
I don't
was
know if
a
that
play.
counts.
Oh, it's
Let's
on your
count
play.
it.
It's on your Playbill vault. Um, in the remount of Beetlejuice, you were in the ensemble in Miss Argentina.
Hmm.
You were in the original Broadway company of Some Like It Hot in the ensemble, and you understudied Minnie, which was the role originated by Angie Schworer, which from the prom.
Yeah, yeah.
And you are currently in Cabaret as Frenchie and the understudy for Sally Bowles. And you also did the out of town tryout of Boop.
Yes.
So,
Understudying Miss Betty Boop.
oh my goodness, so there's so much, there's a lot to process here. Whereas, like, I think any graduating MT would look at this list and be like, this is a dream. And I'm not putting that on you in terms of like assuming you think it's a dream, but like to have worked consistently in a wide range of roles. Because at first I was like, oh yeah, she did the Casey Nicholaw shows and danced a lot. And that clip on your Instagram of you singing the hell out of Emma's I Want song, you went on in the prom. So it's like your voice is astounding. But then I was like, oh my God, she did West Side Story, which I have never really gotten to talk to people in the industry about because of how it came and went, but one of my all-time favorite things I've seen. So I want to talk about that. And you just have kept going and now you're in Cabaret. So what has this journey been like for you living it?
I mean, it's really been wild and like beyond my wildest dreams. And really, I mean, praise God, thank God. I mean, it's been nonstop, which, like, hello, it's been, I mean, it's been incredible. Like, at my age, to have a Broadway career that I do, like, I really don't take that for granted. Like, it is, as a theater nerd, as a theater kid who like I said, just wanted to do this her whole life. I mean, like, it literally couldn't have gone better for me. Um, and it's pretty wild because my senior year of college is when I booked the prom.
Wow.
So because I was in New York City, they said we need a girl, yay high, could cover these parts, and it just like so happened that I fit the bill, and I was just coming out of school, and so coming out of college, going straight into my Broadway debut, and then of course, we took a break for the pandemic, but like other than that, I really haven't stopped working. It's just been really wild and overwhelming at
Hmm.
times, and very much like I'm playing catch up with myself because I've had not that much time for like life,
Yep.
So in a way, now that I'm coming to a place where like I'm in Cabaret, I'm in a hit, I'm probably going to be here for a second, that I'm coming to this place where now I can like okay, like
Yeah.
what does my actual life look like outside of my career, which is a very gratifying and cool thing. But yeah, like it's just a lot of those shows like West Side Story were very short-lived.
Hmm.
I did Beetlejuice as a basically as a medical replacement as Miss Argentina for a
Hmm.
month. So a lot of these shows were not a lot. I have been in long standing shows, but there are a few of in my career that have
Right.
been, short. People are like, "Oh, you've been in so many shows," and I'm like, "Yeah, but like not many of them have run."
Right.
So all that to say, I'm just very grateful for the way my career has gone in such a short amount of time, and it's just crazy. It really is.
I think you touched upon a really important thing, which is how you get to know yourself and among all this, because it is work.
Hmm.
And it's so glamorized and romanticized, and it is wonderful. But then, like you said, they're short, sometimes they come and go. Living through being in the Broadway industry during the pandemic was crazy in the sense of like no one knew what was going on when it was closing. No one knew when we were reopening. I can't I was doing marketing for a single show that was in the midst of that. I can't, imagine being in the cast of one. I'm sure that that was very overwhelming, but you're kind of keeping that in mind where it's like this is what I love to do. I'm performing, but then it's also a job and I'm a human is a crazy balance to strike.
Hmm. Definitely.
You're also playing some mature roles, I would say. Like I think Sally Bowles is one of the best written characters in musical theater history. What's it like to kind of be dropping into these roles at your age?
You know, it's very interesting to me because these are roles that I have studied like my whole life, basically.
Hmm.
Especially with the two revivals that I've been in, obviously Cabaret and West Side Story,
Yeah.
where I understudied two kind of iconic roles.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, there that's big shoes to fill.
Hmm.
Um, so the main thing that I wanted to do when I knew that I was going to be taking them on, was one, honor the performance that the actress that I was understudying was
Hmm.
going to portray, right? There's always that aspect of it, within the director's vision, etc. And all of the Sallys and Anitas that had come before.
Hmm.
So I really had to look at it from a place of that it wasn't going to my version wasn't going to be mine until it was mine, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. Like it was a long it's a longer road, especially at my age. I'm 28. At the time that I was covering Anita, I was 23. So it's a I obviously was going to bring youthful quality to these roles. Um and so I had to take everything that had been before and obviously what the writers had written, and then bring how I relate to this person and
Right.
kind of take everything that had been before and honor it, but kind of throw it away and then say, okay, how can I make this authentic to me? Which is a hard thing to do generally, but at my age is definitely daunting.
I mean, even putting the age aside because you're an actress, you weren't 14 or 15 when you were in the prom. So it's kind of it does go both ways. Does working with directors like Ivo Van Hove for West Side Story and Rebecca Frecknell for Cabaret, does working with directors that have such a distinct vision, like these revivals are not just your grandma's West Side Story or Cabaret. They have such a point of view and a framework around them. Does working with that help kind of create then your version of the character and look at these roles differently since you've known them your entire life?
I think so. I think that mostly what these kind of visionary directors that I have had the honor to work with, the main thing that they always preach is that, you know, I have a point of view, you have to have a point of view. So there's
Mm,
this opportunity that they gift in a way of like not you have to do it the way that I want it, but in a way like that I have such a huge um vision for this piece that so do you, and we have to collaborate,
mm,
right? So I have been granted um, you know, kind of ever since the beginning of my career to be like, you have to have a point of view. And there's no other way that you can go about looking at a role. So when it came down to Anita, because of the fact that they said you have to have a point of view, so I had to look at it from the perspective of, okay, I have to bring this from the ground up. Like
mhm,
whatever they're doing is whatever they're doing, especially me being an understudy. I say, okay, I have to look at what they're doing. I have to create completely something from the ground up. And then the beautiful thing between understudies specifically, and usually typically associate directors, is that we find like a middle ground,
mm.
right? Um, so yeah, like they Evo and Rebecca were amazing at being like, hey, you're going to bring what you have to bring to the role, and that's what's going to be good. You can't do anything else
I love that.
other than you can't be Gail Rankin, or you can't be, you know, Ali E. Carvalho. You know, you can't be the people that do it every night. Like, you have to be you. So, in a way, like you went through my career, and it's funny because, you know, I've understudied in almost every single show that I
Mhm.
have done, and big roles too. And in a way, they don't feel like my roles, but they do feel like my character
Yeah.
that I had created. And I've created all these characters that I've understudied for years now. And it's been such a creative um journey for me, and I feel like that is where I have so much joy when I get to create a character, either like in an original production, or when I have a um you know, like a kind of a blueprint in front of me, and then I can say, okay, how can I rip this blueprint apart and keep the parts that are really necessary, you know?
Yeah.
And that is so fun for me. So yeah, they were amazing in letting me do my own thing.
That's amazing. And it is just, it's so impressive and inspiring that you have understudied and all these because it's so hard. I've never done it, admittedly. So it's so hard to be in a show, to do, and then to be in the building and be doing any role, whether you're a swing and you're not on stage every night, to when sometimes in your situation when you are on stage every night, but then you're understudying. Like it is, it is quite hard. And then to be able to take on all of this while putting your own spin on it is a lot to digest. And sometimes because of like how Broadway works with the checking in at half hour, could you walk me through, and maybe it's nothing, psychologically what happens when it's like, hey, you're suddenly on for Anita or Sally, or I don't know if you ever went on for Betty. But
um, you know, it's interesting because a lot of people tell me like, "Oh, I couldn't do what you do. Like I don't know how you do it, and it's so hard, and how would you do it?" And I always tell people like, if you were faced with the opportunity to do it, you would learn really fast.
love that.
Because there's no other option, right?
Hmm.
When I made my Broadway debut in the prom, it was like right after previews. I hadn't gone on yet, and I was at the time covering 8 tracks of like the girls ensemble, and obviously Emma and Alyssa. And there was one night like right after we had opened that Beth Level got very, very sick at curtain, like
Yes.
literally at standby. And so her understudy had to be thrown on at places. Then that person's understudy had to be thrown on. And then because of the way someone was injured, obviously, people had to go on. Um, there was a track that was left that was empty. And they said to me, they came to me and they said, Gabby, you don't cover this part, but we need you to do it. Can you do it? And
Wow.
I was like, I was 22 and I was like, yeah, okay, of course. Yes. you know, and the part that I was thrown on for, um, she opens the whole show. So the curtain goes up and then she has this like little monologue where she's reporting at the beginning of the
Yes,
show
yes,
and
yes.
hello, this is Olivia
So,
Keating and welcome to welcome to the opening night of blah blah blah. And there's this like this sizable little monologue. And I just I just kept like drilling it in the literal 15 minutes that they told me that I was going to be on to when I was on. And I just remember the curtain going up and being like, "Oh my god, this is my Broadway debut." And I was like, hello, this is Olivia Keating. Like it's just kind of those one of those fight or flight things and you love it so much, I don't know if I
yeah,
could do that now that I'm older and I know better.
right.
But um yeah, you just love it so much that you're just like, okay, let's fucking go. Like there's no other option. Like you make
Yeah.
it happen, people push you around, people shove you with love, like I'm a person that kind of knows everyone's lines anyway. So
Mm.
I, it just happened to work. So I feel like anybody who's placed in that position, you would say, okay, this is it. It's fight or flight. You gotta go. And that's that. The way that it psychologically has kind of gone into my actual life is that often I find myself in fight or flight a lot.
Mm. Yeah.
Where I, as a person, as Gabby, I'm like it's kind of fried my nerves a bit after
Mm-hmm.
this long of time understudying big roles too.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that I'm constantly working on as a practice to get myself out of fight or flight, like
Yeah.
trouble sleeping. I you know there's so many emotions that happen to you on stage. Your body doesn't know that it's
Right.
not real. So after putting my body through that for a while, I think now I'm like, okay, I'd like to be in a place where I'm not getting thrown on all the time,
Yeah.
but hopefully that's coming soon.
Totally. Oh, you are on the precipice. This is such an exciting time, and I'm so grateful to be able to be talking to you about all this. And I love
Aw.
that you're able to highlight, because one of the things I was going to ask was something that everyone overestimates and something that everyone underestimates. And I think you kind of touched on it, where it's like everyone, one of my favorite actresses, Denise Goff from the West End, and she does interviews and she's like, everyone always wants to tell you that it's very hard. She was like, sometimes you just have to let it be what it is. And I think you kind of touched on that with the when you actually go on, but then dealing with it outside of work, it can be affecting and challenging as well. Do you
Mhm.
feel like when you are on then, like when you get to go on for Sally, and thankfully a lot of the time it's scheduled, do you feel like you drop in and you really are like, I'm not Frenchie tonight, this is Sally, and this is the journey?
Yeah, I do. I really do. I feel super connected to Sally and I have been since I played her in high school. I feel like she's
Hmm.
kind of been with me this whole time.
Hmm.
Um and so when I'm on stage, it's kind of the easiest part actually because
Mm.
I'm in my element. I know what I'm doing. I know what I've crafted and created and it's so fun to play on stage and find new things and sometimes forget things and then surprise yourself because you haven't done it in 3 weeks and like
Yeah.
all these different things. I mean, I feel so safe on stage
Mm.
in a way. at this point in my career, it's like, again, it's like the off stage that sometimes I don't feel as safe, because then I get off stage and I go home, and 1,000 people had been cheering for me, and then I'm just like sitting and I'm watching, like, I don't know, YouTube or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, my body doesn't know, like, that me sobbing for the last 30 minutes of the show wasn't real, right?
Right.
And so um it's like I have to remind myself that, you know, Sally, like, you have to really stay at the theater. And I know that sounds so like actory, and but Audra
Mm.
McDonald said it. Not that I'm comparing myself to Audra McDonald, but it is so real. Like, when
It
you get
is.
to a point where you feel so in tune with a character and you feel like you're really living their life on stage, if you ever get to the point, that I feel so grateful that I can, like, live kind of in that space, this weird kind of liminal space. It's so strange that you really have to say, okay, now this part of me has to stay at the theater, or
Yeah.
else, like, I can't. I can't, you know.
Is there any advice that you've gotten from other performers about how to leave it at the theater, or any things that you've developed on your own about, keeping a healthy mindset and your health up?
Yeah, I mean, my therapist is like, you literally have to say, like, say out loud, Sally, you have to stay here.
Mm,
Like, you have to give her a place in the theater, and that's where she sleeps. And then you come home. And I really do feel like that has helped. It's so
great.
like woo woo, but I really do feel like that's
It's not
helped.
woo woo.
It's just like it's just so like strange. Like, okay, Sally, stay here. And you know, um when you're so connected to a character, you don't want to leave her, but
Oh.
she stays there. And um I was living in an apartment that didn't have much sunlight. Um
Hmm.
and I said I have to move, so I've since moved, and look how much sunlight I have.
Love it.
It
Lots
really
of
does help.
sunshine. I
Take
Yes.
taking supplements to help lower my cortisol, because
Mm,
my cortisol is so high. My stress hormone is
hmm.
so high all the time. It's really common for swings. It's really common for understudies. I mean, it's common for performers in general, because of the fact that you get amped up every night, you get nervous, you get stressed out, and then you're in front of 1,000 people. Like, it's really common. I find that um, eating well and taking supplements to help lower my cortisol really does help.
Hmm.
Um, and then, like, they say you have to live like a nun to be
Hmm.
on Broadway. And I think for a lot of years I subscribed to that,
Hmm.
because of the fact that I was just so exhausted all the time, and I needed my energy and I needed
Hmm.
my rest. Um, and of course, I don't drink, I don't, smoke, I don't do any of those things. I really do kind of live like a nun, but I find now that I have to, like, get out and do something that is not just the show every day. And
Mm.
that I do find that makes me happier, whether that's just, I don't know, like hanging with a friend, or going shopping, even if it gets me tired, or going for a walk, or doing something else that doesn't revolve around the show really does help.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. I'm not even a performer, but I think that is so helpful and very aspirational that it is like something you are pursuing and in working on. But you've worked on some like big projects, like some grand scale projects. The backstage, like in West Side Story, you guys were running around in the rain, and in Cabaret, they have completely flipped the August Wilson inside out. How is that experience as an actor? Is it fun? Is it scary? Do you just get used to it? Does it affect anything?
It's very interesting. My boyfriend is in The Outsiders right now, and so he is dealing with being rained on every night. And I'm like, oh, been there, done that, honey. And it's interesting, because he's actually had more experience in the rain than I did, because West Side was so short lived. But it's really cool. I mean, a lot of days you feel like a badass. I
Mm.
remember I felt like a badass in the rain, and other days I was like, I'm fucking cold, So it's really cool to be able to work with all the different elements that I've been granted on stage. Some days in Cabaret, the whole immersive quality of it is so amazing. And you get to really be up in people's faces and you can smell them and you can see their reactions and whether good or bad or and then sometimes you're crawling through the audience and you step in hummus and there's hummus all over your hands. So
Yes.
like
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like, okay, I've done the immersive thing, let's get back to a proscenium. But it's really cool. I mean, it's so cool to be in the environments that I've had the opportunity to be in. It's been really cool to work with designers and directors and people who have an amazing vision.
Mm.
It's been so cool to see how people's brains work. I mean, and to work with people and directors like Casey Nicola, who is just a genius at musical comedy. I mean, I've learned the majority of what I know about comedy from him and from people that I've done his shows with. I mean, he is just the master at musical comedy, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
he's so good at what he does. And and I've done tragedies too, and they're so good at what they do. And I just learned so much from my experience that I didn't learn in school, frankly, because I've worked with so many people that are so varied.
Yeah.
Like I have never worked with one director or one producer or one actor that has been the same, and they're all so vastly different. And it's been really cool to be in those situations and learn so much. I mean, I feel like I've been a sponge for the past 8 years, just like taking it all in, learning everything that I can. Um, to hopefully now hopefully soon I can get to the point where I can start like teaching others in a way.
Oh, hell yeah.
So I'm very excited for that. It's been cool.
I love that. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask do you have like a moment off the top of your head of like a favorite high or like a favorite moment where you were, dancing or doing anything on stage in on Broadway and you were like, this is incredible.
I feel like I have too many to count. I mean, so many come to mind. I just remember dancing in some like a hot, and it was such a hard dance show. And then one day Steven Spielberg came and I was dancing for Steven Spielberg. And that
Oh.
was just I mean, well, that's one. I mean, the one time when I made my Broadway debut and I got thrown on, I mean,
Hmm.
that was such a whirlwind. I mean, so many times I've gone on mid show at the prom or like when there's been family and friends in the audience. I mean, I just remember the prom was such a joyful experience and it was my
Yeah.
first Broadway experience. And I remember every night during the finale, like I would just like look up into the lights and just be like, oh, thank God that I'm here. Like it's so
Oh.
cool. And that's something that does stay with me. So every time that I bow, I say a prayer like, thank you that I'm here. I'm crying.
Oh.
But like that I think that it's not so much the moments that like happen to you, but it's the moments that you make on stage that, or at least for me, the moments that I've made on stage that really stick with me. So
You're amazing. I just wanted to say thank you so much for that beautiful conversation. It meant so much.
oh my God, thank you so much for having me. It means so much that you wanted to talk to me, and that's
I,
so cool.
your story is just like very inspiring to me. And I think it's inspiring to very many people. And I know it is like just the beginning. So I think it's really beautiful to hear how it's gone and how it's affected you and taught you and grown you.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, it's just like wild, and to think that I'm inspiring to anyone. I mean, it's just that's I mean, that's why I did it, right? Like I wanted to do it because these people inspired me. People like, Laura Benanti and Megan Hilty and
Yeah.
Sutton Foster and all these people, they inspired me to live a bigger life, and I'm just so happy that I could at any point tread the boards with them. So that's amazing to hear you say that, and I really appreciate that.